Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. This is, and I quote, a weekly show where we introduce you to some of the best creators from all over the world, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote Channel, and our guest on this episode is a historian of so many different things, including the James Bond franchise, the Superboy television series, among others. Please welcome writer Mark Edlitz is here. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hey, it's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We're very happy to have you here, Mark. And we're also happy to have you here, maybe watching and listening to this right now. So do not forget to like and share. And if you're watching us live or on the replay, thank you so much for doing so. If you have any questions for our guest of honor, Mark Edlitz, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. More than happy to take those as they come in, respectively. With that out of the way, Mark, what would you say were some of your favorite TV series growing up?
Oh, I'd say Batman and Superman were top tier. Remember coming home every day from school and watching Batman at 4:00. And then years later, I had an opportunity to interview both Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar. And so that was quite a treat.
Ooh, oh my goodness gracious. That is a throwback if I ever heard one. Fabulous stuff, though. Do not get me wrong. Do you have any specific favorite movies that you, or past or present? Some of
I mean,
younger, some of
early movies. Yes, early movies. Star Wars and James Bond and Kubrick and Scorsese. I've always been a big movie fan, genre or not. I tend to write specifically about genre, about James Bond, about Superman, Superboy, superheroes. But I have the wide spectrum of film interests.
Well, that's good. That's good. When did you start writing?
I was directing a documentary called Jedi Junkies. I think it came out in 2010, around there. And while I was doing that, I was starting to write a book called How to Be a Superhero. And that was a book of interviews with actors who've played superheroes for the past 60, 70 years or so. And so for that book, it's like, if you could imagine inside the actor studio, but for superheroes, that's kind of what it was. And as I said, I interviewed Adam West and Burt Ward, but I really tried to find as many different superheroes from as many different TV shows and movies as possible. And it was sort of either the nostalgic kind, like, or overlooked. For example, Nicholas Hammond, who played Spider-Man in the 70s. It was people like that. I got Batgirl, I got Yvonne Craig. So I tried to get, I interviewed actors who played Batman, Superman, Supergirl, Batgirl, everyone you'd want to see as a superhero, but sometimes the overlooked or overlooked actors.
Wow, great names. There's no doubt about it. What would you say are some of the rewards about being a writer?
I'm not sure if there are any rewards for being a writer. I do like to do it. I do love my research. I do love to speak to creative people and find out, their approach to things. But it's slow work. It's arduous. It takes a lot of time. You want to get it right. And yeah, so it's a little slow going often.
Yeah, I can certainly understand with the pacing and things like that. Opposite side of the fence, though, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
Well, for that first book, The How to Be a Superhero, it was tracking down all the actors and getting them to agree to be interviewed. One of them one of my favorite was Matt Salinger, who played Captain America. Oh, and John Wesley Shipp, who played the Flash. Sometimes it's trying to get these actors, to find them and have them agree, and then you have these wonderful interviews with them where they tell you all about their experience and what's it like to be a superhero. And I was concentrating for that book on actors when it was a harder, not when it was a harder job, but when it was looked on sort of disparagingly. Now it's a coveted gig to become a superhero, because that could also lead to more work. But the actors who I found and spoke to were some of them who had were struggling with the pros and cons of it. Now I think there's more pros than there are cons.
Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. And what advice would you give to aspiring writers out there?
Well, only do it if you really love it and really love your idea and want to dedicate the time and energy and often the expense of following your idea. I mean, so yeah, be passion first.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And by the way, the Whitfield report, also known as Sam Whitfield, says hello to both Ryan and Mark. What's up, Sam?
Hey,
Sam
Sam.
Whitfield's a buddy of mine. He has his own podcast, doing an excellent job over there. He interviews a lot of writers too. But good to see you, Sam. Hope everything's well in your neck of the woods, brother. If you have any questions for our guest of honor, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And speaking of superheroes, different characters, and all this kind of stuff, I do have a few examples of your work I'd like to go over. One of them that stood out for me. This bad movies go fourth. Wait a minute. Movies go fourth? There's 4 movies in certain yes, there is actually. There's more fourth installments of certain movie franchises than I think someone may think. So for someone who's unfamiliar with this one, movies go fourth. What exactly is it, and how did this come about for you?
Movies go forth is a very strange topic for a book. I grant you that, and I vaguely apologize. What that is, it's looking at the 4th film in movie franchises. So, like Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, the 4th James Bond, the 4th Rocky, where he fights Drago, Highlander, which was the passing of the torch for. And on and on and on and on. What it came about because I was sort of fascinated that when you make a list of the worst films of all time, rightly or wrongly, Batman and Robin, Jaws 4, and Superman 4 come up. And I was like, that's really weird. And when I said, "Oh, I'm going to explore that," and then I did, and then I wrote that book. And what that book is it's 2 things. It's primarily interviews with the writers, directors, and stars of those 4th movies and installments, but it's also trying to look at what happened. Like, what happens. Trilogies used to be the sign of filmmaking success. You had, Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, a beginning, middle, and end. Luke, Leia, and Han and Chewie and the whole Star Wars gang defeat the Empire. Story over. You don't need to go forward or back. But what happens when there is a desire to tell more stories? Well, what happens to a franchise? Does it enhance it? Does it take it down? Are the characters the same? Is John McClane in Die Hard 1 literally the same character as he is in 4? When he's jumping out of helicopters or whatever, or jumping off of an airplane, and he gets scraped up, but he's relatively unharmed. Is he the same character? And I know that Superman 4 gets a lot of grief because it wasn't necessarily as successful as they wanted it to be creatively, but it had a really good impulse and a really good idea, which is let's go back to the basics. Let's get Gene Hackman. Let's treat this character. Let's forefront this character. He was sort of sidelined for Superman 3, which was really a Richard Pryor movie, and so they had the right impulse behind it, but it didn't come together as everyone had wanted. And so that chapter explores what happened for that movie.
Very fascinating stuff, because I remember as a kid watching Superman 4 so many times and remembering it, at least at the time when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I thought it was a really cool movie. But then when you look at the history and the situations that went on behind closed doors and the creative differences, and they cut the budget in half like a week or 2 before they started shooting, and how Christopher Reeve was upset with how it was being handled by Canon Films and everything else, it's disappointing, but I still have just a little bit of a soft spot for that movie
Oh,
because I grew up watching it so much,
absolutely.
and the opening credits are still kind of cool to look at. And then, by the way, Mariel Hemingway entering the picture. I'm just saying, you know.
Oh no, I totally have a soft spot and want at some point in my life to write a book called In Defense of Superman 4. Uh, because it's made with heart. I feel like you do feel the heart of the movie, even if it was a little bit wonky in execution. And the thing with Jaws 4, you look at Jaws 1, it's a masterpiece.
Oh yes.
And I enjoyed Jaws 2. I got to tell you, I thought it was a pretty good sequel. It seemed on par when I first saw the two. It was like, oh, I guess this all feels right. But Jaws 4 had the crazy premise of a shark seeking revenge on the death of another shark, because it's not the same shark. That shark in Jaws, and the other, it's dead. So who is seeking revenge on the family? Other sharks who heard about the family? It's an odd premise, but the people who were making the movie at the time bought into the premise and was like, you know what? If you're going to tell this story, this is the way to do it. And again, it didn't work out to anyone's satisfaction, but they tried.
Michael Caine was in it.
Michael Caine was in it, yes, yeah.
And he also went on record by saying it's one of the biggest regrets of his career, of signing on to be in that.
Well, he also said, I haven't seen the movie, but I did see the house that movie bought.
Oh,
and
yeah, with that too. Yeah, you're right. And man, it's a fascinating topic. Fourth installments in respect to franchise. It really, really is. So congrats on that book.
Thank you.
I am a defender. I wouldn't say like super defender, but I am just a little bit of a soft spot for Superman 4. But I also did really enjoy Live Free or Die Hard, which is Die Hard 4. I really enjoyed that. Some people liked it. It's kind of a mixed bag, whoever you ask. But I actually enjoyed it because he's in modern times. He's going up against a different kind of villain. And the fact that he's going up against Raylan Givens from Justified before or during the time as Raylan Givens and Justified, Timothy Oliphant, by the way.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great actor.
He is just a fantastic actor. There's no, no doubt about it. And then, but yeah, Batman and Robin. Oh my gosh. I mean, I grew up watching as a kid, but then I look back on it and I thought, yeah, this is hashtag not my Batman.
So for Batman and Robin, I interviewed Joe Schumacher, the late great Joe Schumacher.
Oh my gosh, what an array of films that man has made.
Oh my goodness! And by the way, this man was so nice, like such a wonderful human being to me. First of all, he didn't need to talk to. The man was very successful in his career. He didn't need to talk to me about a film that he gets, flack for. Thank you. So that was, first of all, that was generous of him. But what I was trying to understand with him is that Batman 3 was very successful, and Batman 4 had the same creative team as Batman 3. So what I was trying to understand with him is, how does the same team, the same writer, director, producer, music, costume, cinematography, and other members of other key departments come together and try to do the same thing and just not calibrate it correctly? How are they so far off? And he talked to me. He sort of talked to me through that process, so in a very non-defensive way. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. And then for Die Hard 4, I spoke to the writer who had a completely different story for Die Hard 4 that he and Bruce Willis wanted to tell. And it's a long story, so I won't go into all that now. But one thing I will say, it had their script, their version had John McClane sawing off his arm after it got stuck under a helicopter. So half the movie, it's going to be hand. So half the movie he wouldn't have had his hand, and it was his shooting hand. And they were originally going for a very intense vibe, and then wound up with a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that, though, during the home video release, they did release an R-rated cut of the movie. There's an extended cut or unrated director's cut of Live Free or Die Hard, along with the theatrical release cut of the film, which is the PG-13 that we ended up getting in theaters at that time. But I still enjoy it. I still enjoy it. You know, people can say what they want, but listen. Die Hard, we all know, is a classic. Some people forget Die Hard 2 ever happened. I actually like Die Hard 2.
Oh yeah, I'm a Die Hard 2 fan. Yeah, yeah.
Right, but I may not love Die Hard 2, but I do like it. And then Die Hard with a Vengeance. My gosh, that movie is so awesome and funny at the same time between him and Sam Jackson. I could watch them do a movie for 8 hours and I wouldn't get bored because the camaraderie or the friction between the two characters is hilarious. It's so good. And then Live Free or Die Hard, you add in the extra spice of him having his daughter involved in this one. McClane's daughter, of course, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. You get Justin Bell, who was an up-and-coming actor at that time, and then you throw in Maggie Q, who can break your neck just by looking at you. It's fantastic. Maggie Q is awesome. So can't say no to that. I just can't. I really can't. But it really can't. It's. I mean, look, she ended up playing Nikita on the CW for 4 years. I don't know if you ever caught that series that she did, but
No.
it was phenomenal. I still like it to this day. There you go, Maggie Q. We're giving you some credit here. Also, do want to remind you that this is, and I quote, with writer Mark Edlitz. Don't forget to like and share. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments or the chat. Another example of your work, and this is one I'm really fascinated to learn more about. The Lost Adventures of James Bond, and you got my good friend Timothy Dalton, one of the most criminally underrated iterations of James Bond we've ever had, if not the most underrated version of him. Timothy Dalton did a great job in his 2 films, but what would have happened if we had gotten more from him? I'm just curious. The Lost Adventures of James Bond, how did this come about?
It came about because I have a deep obsession about Timothy Dalton and what would have been his 3rd film. I just really wanted to know what would that have been, and so I wrote a book about it. Like it's just like a crazy, like, you know, Ahab like searching for his whale. This is me searching for Timothy Dalton's 3rd film, and because so his first film, Living Daylights, was sort of a classic Bond entry. It was written with Roger Moore in mind, so it came from that tone, that style. His second film, License to Kill, was, you know, gritty and violent and gritty and violent, in sort of in short. And it was a revenge film. And then so the question became, what kind of film would they have made for their 3rd film? Would they have continued that serious tone that was established in the second film, or would they have gone back and told a traditional Bond tale? And so that was sort of what I wanted to find out. And so I interviewed the writer, Alfonso Ruggiero, about his script. And to my knowledge, it's the only interview that he's ever done on the record about it. And it took me years to track him down. And we would keep on, I would keep on missing him. He was being a little evasive about speaking with me. And when I called him on the appointed time, he picked up the phone and said, "Are you surprised that I picked up?" And the truth was that, yes, I was surprised that he picked up, because I didn't think we were going to ever talk. And so I was very grateful to have this conversation and find out all these details of what the 3rd film would have been. There's actually, I was also able to find out what the 4th film could have been. And there were a couple of stories that could have been the 4th. So not only were they working on the 3rd Bond film, but they were also making inroads on his 4th, which is pretty great. And then in the course of my research, I also found out what would have been an alternate 1st Bond film. So instead of Living Daylights, they were working on sort of a like a Batman Begins, but for James Bond. You know, how did James Bond become James Bond? What were his early missions like? How did he go from being how did he get recruited? How did he get trained? Where did he learn his special set of skills? All that would have been covered in this first one. And so that book, which is like a big honking book.
Oh yes.
It goes into all that in great detail, and it also goes into James Bond Jr. In detail. There's more. I probably wrote more about James Bond Jr. than anybody's ever written in the world. And for anyone who might not remember, James Bond Jr. was the animated series about James Bond's nephew, who was also called James Bond. So it wasn't James Bond's son; it was his nephew, who is James Bond Jr. And his friends at the Warfield Academy and the adventures they get into and going up against these baddies. And so I tracked down the writers, producer, the creator, the director, to give you everything you wanted to know about James Bond Jr., but we're afraid to ask.
Wow, what a deep dive that must have been. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that one too, because I didn't watch the Timothy Daltons originally growing up, because like I said, the first one I ever saw was Goldeneye in the theater with my late dad. Dad, I love you and I miss you. He took me to see the Pierce Brosnan run of movies, and then once Daniel Craig started coming out, unfortunately he passed away the year before Casino Royale was released in theaters. But I still carried on the tradition of going to see the next, James Bond film, because that's what my father and I did. And then I went back, after we saw Goldeneye and Tomorrow Never Dies. And I think the other one was The World's Not Enough, if I'm not mistaken. And I went back and watched all the Connery movies, the George Lazenby one-off, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Then I watched Live and Let Die by Roger Moore, and one Roger Moore film was enough for me. And
No,
I'm sorry. I know
I love Roger.
Sacrilege. I know it's sacrilege, but I
love Roger.
Guy, and I thought this really isn't my JB, so I think I'm going to pass on his other 6
No,
movies.
I'm sorry. I have to end this discussion right now.
It's okay. You can some people do defend his run, and I get it. It's okay. Go ahead. If you want to say something about Roger Moore, go right ahead. I'm not going to.
Oh no, I was totally teasing. No,
okay. I thought you were
that's. I'm sorry. I'm just totally teasing. That's the fun of being a James Bond fan, is that you could have these different opinions. No, I grew up in the era when there were just really 2 James Bonds. There was Sean Connery and Roger Moore. And growing up, Roger Moore was my Bond. I was able to interview for him for one of my Bond books. I wrote 4 books on James Bond. I didn't mean to. I didn't intend to write 4 books on James Bond. It just happened. But he was a lovely man, and he was my James Bond. I also have I feel like with James Bonds, the first James Bond that you see, like a baby bird, you imprint on them. So whoever your first Bond is becomes the official Bond for you. And you could watch other Bonds, and they might do it well for you, and you might enjoy them a lot. But it's always your first Bond that becomes like the real Bond for you.
Yeah, which is understandable. Everyone has their generation's iteration of the character. Yeah, but what I was what I was going to share with you is sometime later I went back and watched the 2 Timothy Dalton movies, and I realized, oh, this is different, and this is kind of a precursor to what we kind of got with Daniel Craig being a more grittier, what do you call it, razor's edge type of Bond, because Living Daylights, he kind of hints at it, and then in License to Kill, he just goes full on.
Absolutely.
To a certain extent. And Timothy Dalton just really, he just ran with it, because you see him in interviews and you see him in behind the scenes footage. He's sitting there reading the Ian Fleming novels because he wants to get as close to a close adaptation of the characters he possibly could at that time. And to me, I think he nailed it. I mean, he just ran away with it. And right, like you said, it's a pity that we didn't get more installments.
Yes, absolutely.
His run, because I would have loved to have seen what Timothy Dalton would have done. I mean, granted, he ended up playing Neville Sinclair 2 years later in The Rocketeer. So,
yeah,
I can't, we can't throw too much shade at Eon Productions and the people behind the scenes, because Timothy Dalton landed on his feet. He played many other characters after James Bond and even before. So, Timothy, you're underrated. You're the man, and we'll continue to support The Living Daylights as well as License to Kill, because they are 2 good Bond films. And License to Kill is actually, to me, it's one of the better James Bond, at least for my money.
No, it definitely has. It definitely has its big fans.
I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. By the way, Deja Marie is here. She says aloha to Ryan. Hello, Deja Marie. Good to see you, darling. And she also goes on to say, my favorite Bond was in fact Sean Connery, but Roger Moore was good too.
Yeah, no, Sean Connery for many will always be the definitive James Bond, and there's a good case to be made for Connery.
Very true. They actually posted a montage on the official James Bond social media feed where he says the line, "Oh, but of course." I didn't know he says "but of course" so many times.
Oh, really?
In his movie, yeah, it's a really interesting montage that the official 007 social media account put together. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll send you a link to that so you can go check out that footage, because I think it's really interesting how Sean Connery says, "Oh, but of course." Yes, chef. But of course. It's just, okay. Didn't know you would drop "but of course" in the same sentence so many times throughout your X amount of picture runs, Bond. But something we can leap up into the sky and look forward to, and something that's out now. Look up in the sky, the Forgotten Superboy series. So I got to know something. first of all, I've heard rumblings about this show over the years. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to sit down
Yeah.
and properly, watch it. But just for anyone who's curious and is unaware, look up in the sky. How did this come about, and what made you decide to write about this particular iteration of this character?
Well, it's sort of an interesting story because, as you just said, you're aware but not deeply familiar with it. That's a fair characterization? We just okay, and I think that's true, and it's true now, and it was sort of even true then. Is that here you've got this global brand which is as big as any other brand, is as big as Mickey Mouse, is as big as Star Wars. Everybody knows Superman. And this series from the late 80s to the early 90s, which ran 4 seasons and 100 episodes, which was the magic number you needed for syndication, was not particularly well known, but it was what I will call a spin-off from the Christopher Reeve series produced by Alexander and Ilya Salkind. So they had the rights to this character, which they had the rights to Superman, made some movies, and then said, well, they did the Supergirl as well. And then it was determined that they would try a TV version. Let's remind me to get into who created it. But let me just finish this thought. So they said, we're going to do a spin-off series of this big feature film franchise, which Superman 1 and 2, the first shoot, I think, took something like 18 months to shoot. And they would try to shoot Superboy in 5 days. So it's, how do you deliver the thrills of a feature film version of Superman, but do it on TV and in 5 days? And you really can't really compete on that grand scale. What you do try to do is have some fun and some action, but then you try to also dig down on the character moments. What was interesting to me is that if you look at the credits of season, is who created it. Is if you look at the credits of season 1, they don't say anything, but by season 2, I'm going to say the 6th episode or so, really, it says suggested by an idea by Peter Marino. They might say Peter R. Marino. But anyway, so I was like, what is this? I assumed that it was created by Alexander and Ilya Salkind, who did the movies. And so I that became a fun little mystery to me to solve. And I eventually did track him down and interview him. And so here was this guy who was outside Hollywood, who worked on radio, and who had this idea for a Superboy series. And so he tracked down the creators of the movie series, pitched them this idea, and that's sort of how the genesis. I mean, it's more complicated than that, and I go into it in detail, but that's sort of the genesis of that story. And I was like, oh, cool. Here's a guy who's just a Superboy fan who pitched a TV series based on the movies, and it got made, which is pretty great. And then for that book, I interviewed. There are 2 different actors who played Superboy across those 4 seasons. So I've interviews with both of them in the book. Interviews with Lex Luthor and Lana Lang, Stacey Hyduck, who is spectacular in the show. The show was directed, of those 100 episodes, more than a quarter or so were directed by David Nutter, who everyone knows from X-Files and Game of Thrones. I have an interview with him. I have an interview with these great comic book writers like Carrie Bates and Mike Carlin and a few others. So I try to speak to and Julia Pistor, who is the showrunner. So I try to also so these are also interviews with different showrunners for these different seasons. Of those 4 seasons, they had just as many showrunners as they did seasons. So yeah, that's that.
Oh yeah, it's a fascinating tale, by the way. And congratulations on the release of that book, because the cover looks fantastic. By the way, fantastic cover. And Stacey Hyduck, the first time I ever saw her professionally was in a short-lived television series called, I believe she was on Sequest DSV.
Yes.
And it's funny because she had a bit of a different. Obviously, her hair was different. She had a different kind of appearance and all that kind of stuff. But she looked beautiful in Sequest TSV. And now that I find out that she was a different iteration of Lana Lang before I knew, because Lana Lang appears in Superman 3 with Annette O'Toole playing the
Yes.
cast with the Christopher Reeve movies, which fabulous. And then it's funny because she ends up playing Martha Kent in the greatest television series, at least in my opinion, the greatest television series of all time, Smallville. And then Lana Lang is played by Kristen Crook in that iteration.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, look at all the crossover. One Lana Lang plays Martha Kent, the other was as the new iteration of Lana Lang, and then you get, even before long before Smallville ever came out, Stacey Hydak was Lana Lang. I'm like, oh, hello there. So this is just fascinating to me because I know who Stacey is, and I'm like, oh, Stacey did something else before Sequest? All right, I'm gonna have to look into this.
Yeah, she's really great on the show. Oh, I just wanted to say it was also J.M. DeMatteis and Stan Berkowitz. And many more people. I just wanted to say some additional names. Sorry, because it's these creators who work on the show, who shot the show in Florida. They just put so much heart and care into it that this book is not that book, the look up, what is it called? Look Up in the Sky, the Forgotten Superboy series. Like that book is not designed. That book is designed so that if you're not familiar with the show, I'll tell you everything you need to know. But it's one of those things where the story behind the show and how they put it together is kind of spectacular and fascinating, that they could try to do something ambitious, but just have 5 days to deliver. And there's also a lot of rumors about the show that I try to address and in many cases dispel, including the circumstances of how it ended, as well as some behind the scenes drama that is often misreported about it. And so my goal was just to set the record straight about everything and bring it all into light.
Understandably so. What have there been any special memories for you from being at book signings or conventions selling your books when it comes to these properties?
It not really. It's fun and it's nice to go to a convention, especially if I got one. John Peel, who wrote a whole bunch of books of the James Bond Jr. novelization. He wrote like 6 or 8. They're somewhere there. I had the privilege of sitting next to him at a convention, and so I brought my James Bond Jr. books, and he signed them all for me. So that was quite lovely for me.
Oh, there you go. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Do you have plans to appear at other events to sell these wonderful books of yours to the masses?
Not. I do it sometimes. It's not a very effective. I mean, it's fun, but for me, it's not very. It's nice to meet people but when I go to a convention, I'm not really interested in buying books. That's not and it's like, who wants to like schlep these gigantic books around at a convention, like, and just fill up your it's like, I don't want to do that. So I'd rather get a book on Amazon and get something else at a convention.
Well, that's fair. I can certainly understand that. Is there a certain actor or actress you hope to sit down and have a conversation with at some point or another that you haven't had the chance to meet up with yet?
No, I mean, if I could speak to any writer, I'd speak to Richard Maybaum, who wrote so many of the early James Bond ones. He passed, but he's sort of my dream interview. He helped establish what those films were. More, I don't want to say more than anyone. But Bruce Fearston, who wrote GoldenEye, and who wrote the foreword to one of my books, said that if you're going to have a Mount Rushmore for James Bond, then you have to put Richard Maybaum on that monument. He's that significant.
Okay, understandable. When it comes, I'm just curious though, just throwing it out there. When it comes to the James Bond series, now that Amazon MGM owns it, Barbara Broccoli and gosh, why am I blanking on his name?
Michael G.
Michael
Wilson.
G. Wilson. Yeah. They've stepped away. It's in someone else's hands now. Who do you think is going to be the new James Bond?
I imagine it's going to be someone who has experience and maybe you'll recognize because you're like, oh, I saw him on that BBC show. But I don't think it's going to be a big established movie star. It's got to be someone young enough that they'll commit to 3 to 5 movies over 10 to 15 years. So they got to be young, up and coming, but proven as a talent in some way.
That's a very good good statement there. Good, very truthful there. Yeah, they do want someone who's going to be in this for the long haul. So good luck. It's not going to be easy shoes to fill, but they've been filled before and they're going to be filled again. So all we can do is wait and hope. And with that, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to Mark Edlitz for being our guest on this week's episode of And I Quote. Thank you so much for being here, Mark. It was great to talk with you and hear more about the incredible books you have out there in the world, and especially with the release of the latest one with Look Up in the Sky. If someone wants to know more about you or buy copies of your books, where can they follow you?
I'm on Twitter and under Mark Edlitz. I have a website, markedlitz.com. But really, Amazon is the best place to get the books. If you do get a book and you like it, please give it a 5-star review. I can't tell you how much it helps. If you do get a book and you hate it, please give it a 5-star review. I can't tell you how much it helps. When you're an author who is an independent author, who's an independent author like me, it really helps to have support from people to help. So that's always a big plus. And if you get one of my books and have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer a question or attempt to answer a question.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. I'm going to talk to you here again momentarily, so stick around for me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you once again for being here, Mark. My name is Ryan of And I Quote Channel. Follow me across all forms of social media simply at where am I pointing to? Where is it? There it is. At And I Quote Channel. Links are in the description below where you can follow both, Mark Edlitz and myself. Also, we're on the road to 5,000 subscribers. Once we do, we'll have a great big live stream celebration that will include special giveaways that you, the person who's watching or listening to this program right now, you're going to be eligible to win. And the seasons are changing. People could always use more layers. So we got hoodies, we got shirts, we got stickers you can add to your water bottles. We have coffee mugs, notepads, all kinds of wonderful things available in our Redbubble store. Links are down in the description below within my link tree or in our social media bios. Make sure you check those out. Also, if you want to check out my short story, which is a straight up Western, it's called Wolf of the West. That was published by Veritas Entertainment as a part of their Western Tales Volume 1 anthology with 16 different writers, 15 different stories. It is available on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and ebook. So saddle up and take a ride into the old West. Yeah. Don't forget, And I Quote is on Saturdays, 12 p.m. Eastern time, unless we have some special programming planned for you. Movie watch-alongs are on Friday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern time, so make sure you check those out. Lots of movies are turning a certain age this year, so tune in. We got lots in store for you for the remainder of this year of 2026. Once again, thank you for being a part of this episode of And I Quote. We cannot do this without you. And do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when the videos go up or they go live. And remember, life is better when supporting indie creators from all over the world. Take a look.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now, it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasmafire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
I've been a superhero for a long time. It used to be so simple. You catch the bad guys, do the right thing, save the world. Then I met Aiden, and things got complicated.
Iris recruited me as a kid and turned me into their own personal weapon. I couldn't see any way out until I met Marty. But now we're going to burn their entire organization down if we can.
Forces of Nature, Books 1 and 2, Scorcher and Thin Ice are available now wherever books are sold online. See www.kellygentner.com.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.